Okay, so another Sunday, it's YouTube day, make a video, maybe two, let's see how it goes. The race videos are still coming, lots of bandwagon jumping, spouting of the majority popular view, regardless of the facts, common sense or logic. The reasoning in some of these videos is appalling. I'll give you an example. One guy kept demanding another guy name the genes responsible for a particular trait. I guess the guy couldn't or whatever, and I think the idea is that if you can't name them, then they don't exist, and therefore the trait must be down to the environment, something like that. Stupid. Yeah. Here's the thing, to illustrate, you could totally flip it around. I could say, if you can't demonstrate to me what environmental factors produce the trait, oh, well then it isn't environmental. What are the environmental factors? Can you break them down? Is it education? Is it diet? Is it peer group? Is it access to YouTube? You know, if you can't name them, I'm not going to accept it's environmental. Just retarded reasoning. People can't think in a straight line anymore. The continuum fallacy is showing up again and again. I mentioned that in my last video. It's a logical fallacy. It's a known logical fallacy. If I can be bothered, I'll put the link in the low bar. Actually, no. If you cared, you would Google it. I'm not here to educate people. Why people struggle with this, I do not know. Skeptical heretic in that debate of his, 4 times I counted it. I've never seen someone so brazenly, repeatedly and confidently assert a logical fallacy. Okay, this is, I'll just quote from the wiki. The fallacy appears to demonstrate that 2 states or conditions cannot be considered distinct or do not exist at all, because between them there exists a continuum of states. According to the fallacy, differences in quality cannot result from differences in quantity. The existence of hard or controversial cases does not preclude our ability to designate members of particular kinds of groups. Okay, that is maybe a bit hard to follow. Let me explain it a bit. This is what they mean when they say, oh, it's a social construct. It's just a social construct. I wouldn't use that term. I would use the term category. So it's a linguistic thing. It's something we impose on a situation, the way we label up a situation, to make communication and understanding easier for us. So we do it all the time. So what's the difference between a hill and a mountain? At what point does a hill become a mountain? Well, it differs in everyone's mind, right? It's somewhat arbitrary. Should Pluto be a planet? When does a puddle become a lake? You know, when is the colour blue purple? And when is purple becoming blue? When does a child become an adult? Okay, categories imposing distinction on a continuum. It's very common, and in these cases you can argue where the line should be. You know, people do argue when does a child become an adult. Paedophiles argue that one all the time, right? But scrapping a category, not wanting to use the category, that doesn't change the fundamental difference, right? Categories are based on a real difference. You can't have a category in the first place without a difference. Yeah, it presupposes the fact that you're even doing it, the fact that you make up a category and you use it in your language presupposes that there is an actual difference. So if we stop making the distinction between hills and mountains, that doesn't mean that mounds of earth are now the same height. Okay, the differences in height between mounds of earth are still exactly what they were before. So, you know, this is about language. It's got nothing to do with science. And the giveaway is, no one seems particularly concerned about categories other than race, apart from the paedophiles. Okay, There's no there's no campaign to get rid of labels like red or orange or hills and mountains and whatnot. So it's pretty clear. I think it's obvious that this is ideologically driven. It's an ideologically driven campaign to change language. It's almost like people think if we stop using the category, then the differences will disappear. People won't be able to perceive the differences, or I suppose really people won't be able to express the differences effectively. That's what you're doing. That's all you're taking away, by quibbling the category, which is really silly, and it's dishonest and it's stupid. It's a little bit like an ostrich sticking its head in the sand because it doesn't like what it sees. It doesn't change anything. I do kind of get the motivation that people feel the language is divisive, and a couple of people have said to me, man, why are you trying to divide people? Well, I guess it's just what reality is, and we're divided in a whole bunch of ways already. Where are the French and German people in this discussion? They're not here because they have a different language. We're divided by sex, income, education, nationality. We're divided in a ton of ways. So I guess the trick is really to get on with people despite the differences, not try and change language and play semantic games. People always say, well, what do you mean by race? What's your definition of race? Or what? Here's what we're talking about. It's really simple in a sentence, right? Populations geographically separated over time accumulate different mutations. And I don't see how anyone could argue with that. I'd like to see someone argue with that. It's ridiculous. We're different. Too bad. Sorry I made you cry, and you're just going to have to deal with it. 50,000 years is quite a long time, right? The differences, some of the differences are so obvious a 5-year-old child can point out. Got skin, hair, eye, colour. Skulls are different shapes. Forensics, like police forensics in a crime scene, can identify ethnicity from a skull. And people are making videos on YouTube saying, oh, the differences are only superficial. Really? Is the shape of a skull, is that superficial? It would be wrong to overemphasize the differences, but it's equally wrong to minimize them, right? Okay, have a good one.